Hi guys, how are you all doing? So in this video I'm going to teach you how to make this beautiful two-piece, so keep watching. So starting with, I had to cut the upper bodies of this two-piece, which is the crop top. So cutting out the selvage end of the material, the wideness of this upper bodies is my bust circumference divided by 4 plus 2 inches. That's what I had at the wideness, and the length is about 25 inches in length. The back piece has extra 2 inches allowance on it for our zipper allowance. So this is the 2 inches allowance for the back. Then the upper one is the front piece. That is how to cut both the front and the back piece together. So I place my front piece on the line of that 2 inches. So we are going to mark our shoulder point. So this is my shoulder point, and after marking my shoulder point, I'll place my tape on a straight line. I'll mark my armhole point, then I'll mark my bust point, and I'll mark my waist point. And the full length of the top is at 20, but I extended 2 inches allowance for folding. But I extended into 2 inches allowance because I wanted it to be as long as 22 inches because my client is very tall and she's very big. So I was still thinking whether to make it 20 or 22. I folded in the zipper allowance for better understanding of this video, okay? Because the zipper allowance might be confusing you. You would think that it's included in what we are cutting. No, it's not included in what we are going to cut here. We are going to fold it in, but we are going to use it at the end of cutting of these upper bodies. So our shoulder divided by 2 is 7.5. Then I added half inch allowance for seam allowance, which is 8. So I marked the 8 inches down to the armhole point. I came up by 1 inch from the angle of the armhole point to mark our armhole curve. Then for my bust, I divide my bust circumference by 4. It gave us 9 and 6/8. That is what I'm teaching you there, plus 2 inches allowance, 10 and 6/8, sorry. That's my bust point divided by 4. I have to bring it up to the armhole point, okay? Then my client's waist circumference divided by 4 is 9 and 6/8 plus 2 inches seam allowance. If you don't understand all this that I'm making, you go back to where I taught you guys how to read a tape. That is where you understand. My hip circumference divided by 4, I mark it down. I will not be needing a seam allowance on the hip side because this top is not up to this hip side, it's not up to the hip. So at the neckline, I am going to go down by 4 inches for my neck depth and 3 inches for my neck width. So for the back neckline, I'm going to go out by 3 inches for the wideness of the neck, and I'll come down by 1 inch for the depth of the neck, or 1.5 depending on how I came down by 1 inch, then cut it out. You see, I brought out the zipper allowance. Now I'll cut out the front neckline too, then I'll cut out other places. So before then, we're going to go down by 1 inch at the shoulder area, and I'll curve it to the neckline. So it's going to help us to bend the shoulder because our shoulder is not straight. So that is how to do that, okay? So make sure you do that on all your cuttings. So next, we are going to cut the sleeve. We folded the sleeve by 2, and I had to make it as wide as I could because my client is on the bigger side. So the length of the sleeve is 20, but I'm not going to use all of that. Then the wideness is about 15 inches in width. So we are going to mark the length of the sleeve. So the length of the sleeve is at 11 inches. I marked it down, placing my tape on a straight line. I had to mark the starting point of the sleeve. Then I came down by 5 inches for the sleeve curve. Then I'm going to divide my armhole by 2. My client's armhole by 2 is 23. Divide by 2 the round armhole. Then I give my S curve. My S curve like this, so that it will fit my armhole when fixing on the dress. Next is to divide my armhole curve by 2. That's my upper arm divide by 2. Then connect it to the S shape, and that is how to cut a sleeve, your short sleeve. So I'm going to cut out the excesses, and we're going to cut 2 of this sleeve now. So this is all we have for the cutting. Let's go ahead now and cut the lining of the upper bodice now. Also remember to open the zipper allowance like this. Open it up. So this is all we have for the cutting of this beautiful piece. This is the sleeve and the 2 bodies and the lining as well. So let's go ahead and join them together. Placing my lining and my fabrics right side facing right side, I pinned it down, and this is how I'm going to sew it. I'm going to leave the armpit and the shoulders, and I will join other places. So this is what I did, and I'm cutting out the excesses. Then after cutting out the excesses, I will turn it out from the armhole. Make sure the points are out, the edges they are out. Then I'll go ahead and iron it down, and this is what it looks like after ironing. So this is the front and this is the back piece. The back piece is divided into 2 because of the zipper allowance. So we are going to put the zipper now. Putting the zip, we are going to go in by 1 inch like this from the center of the back piece. 1 inch, and we connect it all the way to the down. So this is where we are going to put our zip. Then I pinned it down this way. So next thing I'm going to do is to open it after pinning it down. Then I'm going to insert my zip like this, and here is where I'm going to stitch on the zip. So I'm gonna be sewing through these lines that I'm pointing at now. So, and here I am done stitching. This is the back piece, this is my lines, as you can see. So I'm going to place my front piece on the back piece, right side facing the right side. So after I'm done with that, I am going to join the both sides. So when I joined the front piece to the back piece, I found out that the back piece has a lot of allowance than the front piece. Reason because I had a lot of allowance on the back piece compared to the front piece, but that is not a problem. You can still cut it out if you want, but mine is not a bad thing. I didn't cut it out. So I'm making the back piece to be exact same thing with the front piece. So except the place that I've already stitched, which I'm not going to cut out because I've stitched it. So next thing is to start joining the shoulders. This is how I'm going to join the shoulders now. I'm going to bring the material together and the lining together, and I'll flip it back, the 2 materials together and the 2 linings together, and I will join them like this and pin it down. Then run a stitch 1/2 inch allowance on top of it, and we are going to see what it looks like. It's going to be very neat. It will cover the rough space. Okay, so that is it. Just watch what I'm doing here. You are going to see how easy it will be. Yes. So after joining, this is how it should look. Very neat, and it came out very fine. So next thing we're going to do is to join the sleeve to the dress, to the top. So I'm going to notch the center of the sleeve, then fold the down part of the sleeve by 1 inch or 1/2 inch, then notch the center of the sleeve with my scissors, then attach the center to the joining of the shoulder. Okay, then pin it down, and I'm going to pin it around the sleeve opening, then run a stitch with my you're going to run a 1/2 inch stitch on it. Run a stitch on it with a 1/2 inch, then you do the same for the other side of the sleeve. So after joining the sleeve, closing up the edge of the sleeve with 1/2 inch, then proceed to shape the dress with your normal measurements. That's the top. You're going to shape it with your normal measurement. So this is the sleeve after joining, and we're going to start shaping the dress now. So I'm going to mark my bust point, my armhole point, and the waist point is down there. So my bust divide by 2, that's this bust circumference divide by 2. This time around we have just the front piece and the back piece, so it's going to be divided into 2. The bust circumference divide by 2, we have 21.5. I'm going to mark it 21.5. What is left there is 3 inches. Then we're going to divide the 3 inches by 2, and we're going to mark it, shape it to the sleeve. Your armhole, you remove the allowance you added at the sleeve, that is 7 inches. Remember we used 8 inches before. Now we're going to use 7 inches because my client's arm is 14. Okay, upper arm is 14, so we use 7 inches. We are going to use the normal size of that customer. That's what we are doing here. So we are going to run a stitch. My hip divide by 2, that is what I did there too. Okay, my hip divide by 2. The extra allowance that is there is 4 inches, so we're going to divide that 4 inches by 2. So I'm going to run a stitch on the chalk, and I'll come back and show you what it looks like. So this is what it looks like. Very beautiful and very neat. So guys, this is how to make the crop top, okay, and a basic bodice. I will also upload this on my TikTok for the basic bodice tutorial video. So let's move over to the trouser and let's make the trouser. So folding my fabric by 2, I am going to mark the starting point of the trouser length, that is also my waist point. After marking the starting line, I'm going to place my tape on a straight line. Then I will mark my hip point and my crotch point. So after marking my crotch point, the next thing I did was to go in by 1 inch from the waistline to create my feminine curve, and I'll connect it to the hip curve, the hip point, sorry. So once I'm done, I will divide my waist circumference by 4. What I have, I will mark it down plus 2 inches seam allowance. You can add 1.5 inch seam allowance depending on how you want. So I will divide my hip circumference divide by 4 plus 2 inches seam allowance. So my cross circumference divide by 2, I'll mark it down. Then I'll make a straight line. I'll mark a straight line all the way to the down. So we're going to be using 15 inches as the wideness of the trouser because it's a free pant, and my customer is on the bigger side. Okay, she is very big, so you need an allowance, an extra allowance on the trouser. So we are going to be cutting out. So when I got to the crotch point, I found out that my client's crotch point is not what I marked. So my client's crotch point is 17 inches and I marked 15 there. So I had to extend extra 2 inches and I curved it. Thank God I was able to realize on time. So I had to cut it. So this is the front side of our palazzo pant. So we are going to cut the back side now. We use the full length of the material for the full length of the trouser. So we are going to place the front at the back. After folding the back by 2, I place my front piece on the back piece like this. So I'm going to just follow the lines and start cutting out. Cut out the salvage end. That black area is not needed. So I'm going to use the front piece to trace the back piece. Okay, I added ½ inch on the crotch part, just ½ an inch. Then I cut it out. Then cut out the sides. Make sure you cut the sides into 2. Open it up. So this is what we have for the trouser. Okay, sorry, don't mind the noise. It's raining over here. It's raining. I can't avoid it, so don't worry guys, you can hear me correctly. So here is our trouser. Let's go ahead and cut the pocket. The side pocket is going to have just a straight side pocket. There's no need to curving. We don't have to curve the side of the pocket like the men's own. No, it's just a side pocket. You wouldn't even know that it has a pocket. That's what we are going to do here now. So we are going to go down by 7 inches for the fixing joining of the pocket. We are going to make it 8 inches, 8 inches. Then notch it up and curve it like this and cut it out. So guys, we are done. Let's move over to the trouser and fix it. 2 for one side and 2 for the other side. We have 4 folds. So on the trouser, we added a lining to it to make it stronger at the waist area, because my client is very big. It will not tear off easily. So I'm going to join the front piece together and the back piece together. Then I will stitch on 8. That place I'm pinning down is where I'm going to run a stitch. So I run a stitch like this with just ½ inch. I'll run a stitch on where I just marked my chalk, and I'll do the same for the back. So I will do the same thing for the back, pin it down, and I'll stitch there with ½ inch. Open the front piece and I'll come down by 1 inch from the waistline, then attach my pocket. I'll come down by 1 inch on the waistline, then attach my pocket from the 1 inch there. I'll attach one side of my pocket, right side facing right side. I'll do the same for the other side. I'll come down by 1 inch, attach my pocket there, right side facing right side, and I'll stitch it like this. Then attach the back piece like so, and I will do the same for the other side too. Then I will run a stitch like this on them, leaving ½ inch close to the edge. So this is what we have after joining the pocket. So I'm going to bring my back piece now, and I'm going to place it on the front piece like so. So next I'm going to pin down the sides like so. Mind you, at the pocket side, I'm going to open the pocket and pin one side of the pocket. So I'm going to pin everything all around, and once we are done, we are going to run a stitch on all the sides, all the openings. So at the pocket area is still open, we just pin one side and pin the other side as well. So we are going to run a stitch like this and like this, like this, and hem the down part of the palazzo trouser. So I proceeded to add my waistband. This is my waistband, guys. I finished adding it. On fold is 4 inches, by folding is 2 inches plus ½ inch for inseam, okay, for allowance. So guys, this is what it looks like. I added my zipper. This is my zipper by the side. So guys, this is my palazzo pants, and this is how it looks like after I am done making it. Okay, so guys, thank you all for watching. See you guys in my next video. Bye.